you'll find plenty of evidence that it's been highly, highly significant. And again, you'll find plenty of evidence that one of the major means by which this has happened is by financial innovations, by securitization of mortgages, by securitization of finance, by the creation of derivative markets that spread risks, astonishing reorganizations of the financial institutions and the innovations of financial institutions, which are very hard to understand. But they have been crucial, because one of the things they've done is, again, change the scale at which the urbanization project works. It no longer is a metropolitan region, it's pretty much the whole world. And that accounts for something which I think you would have noticed if you looked at the PowerPoint presentations. All of those buildings look the same. It doesn't matter whether in Beijing or Shanghai or Sao Paulo or Rio or wherever, they all look pretty much the same. I mean, okay, a little bit of funniness here and a little twist here and there, but... And actually, there's been a huge global building boom. It's well understood, I think, in the United States that the global economy was essentially supported beginning in the middle of the 1990s, becoming very strong after 2000 and 2001 by the dynamics of the housing market and the property market. And it was twofold. One was that the asset prices were rising and people were extracting money from their properties and just spending it on all kinds of things. But also there was a huge building boom in the United States. And the United States was running a global deficit. So in a sense, the building boom in the United States was the demand, which was absorbing all of the products from China and Taiwan, East Asia and all the rest of it. But it was debt financed, and who is financing the debt? Well, it's the Chinese central bank and the Koreans and the Japanese and the Saudis and all the rest of it. So you've got a very peculiar kind of system. But the other aspect of it is that wherever you go in the world, there are these huge building booms going on. And China is, of course, the epicenter of it. It's astonishing what's going on in China. I mean, we saw the maps. I mean, Shenzhen, you know. I went to the Pearl River Delta. Frankly, I've never been so scared in my whole life for the future of the planet. What's going on in the Pearl River Delta is not only astonishing, it's downright obscene. But what's so interesting about the Pearl River Delta is you also get to know where the surplus is coming from. Because you go into one of those factories and it's 40,000 people living on $45 a month, living in appalling circumstances with industrial injuries all over the place. That's where the surplus is coming from. And what I hate about some of the presentations we had today, we present all of these beautiful things, and we don't ask the question, where the hell is the surplus coming from? Who's making it? And what are the implications of it? And one of the implications is that you're actually getting initially a bifurcation of what's happening in cities. On the one hand, you'll get the UN report, which has now been turned into a sort of popular book by Mike Davis, saying we're moving into a world which is a planet full of slums. So you think, oh, slums, yeah, it's awful. And then you go to, I don't know, Santiago in Chile, and you get to the airport and you're going in and you pass all the slums and you say, yeah, this is awful. And then all of a sudden you see all these high rises. Little Manhattan, the other end of town. Huge building booms, cranes all over the place. I whizzed through Spain on a high-speed train and I went past a town called Ciudad Madrid on a high-speed train. And on the high-speed train I counted at least 100 construction cranes. I mean, the construction boom in Spain is just astonishing. Construction boom going on everywhere. Go up and take a look around outside here. And you know, what's astonishing about all this building is how profligate it is. I mean, excuse me, I'm going to say it, but the amount of wasted space in this building is just astonishing. The wasted resources in this building is just astonishing. Look at those buildings being built. The wasted resources are enormous. And you tell me that you don't have better things to do with all that surplus than build this sort of stuff? Go to Dubai. You want a ski slope inside of a shopping mall in Dubai? Does that make sense in terms of all of the issues that really need to be confronted? Planet of slums one end, huge building boom with huge profits being made at the other. And that is even symbolized even more dramatically in the United States right now. The end of January every year, somebody adds up all of the bonuses which the folk on Wall Street earned last year. The figure came out last January and they earned $33.2 billion, which is only 1% less than they'd earned the year before. Isn't that a fantastic rate of return for screwing up the whole world's financial system? Wouldn't you like to earn $33.2 billion for making a total mess? But at the other end of the scale, we have this enormous foreclosure crisis going on in the United States. 2 million people have lost their homes. 2 million more are scheduled to lose their homes. In other words, you've got an incredible write-off of assets at one end of the political scale and an incredible accumulation of wealth at the other end of the scale. And you've got to connect those two. In other words, this is a classic case of what I call accumulation by dispossession. People are being dispossessed of their homes. And okay, some of them were speculating on their homes and probably deserved to get caught. But a lot of people weren't. And you know what's interesting when you look at the pattern? You look at the map of foreclosures in a city like Baltimore, highly concentrated amongst African Americans and in poor neighborhoods. And when about 15 houses or 20% of the houses in a neighborhood get foreclosed, nobody else's house is worth anything. Nobody can get out of there. And you know what? This happens to be on quite high-value land. This is a financial Katrina. Except it's not confined to New Orleans. It's in Baltimore, it's in Detroit, it's in Chicago, it's in some areas of New York. It's wiping out whole neighborhoods of low-income populations, destroying their assets, at the same time as the folk on Wall Street earned $33.2 billion in terms of bonuses. Some of them, of course, lost their jobs. They got a golden handshake as they did so. The guy at Merrill Lynch, I think it was, got $61 million. One of the other guys got $161 million. If you get foreclosed on your home, you get nothing. Now this social process, dramatically defined in the United States, is going on everywhere. I was in Mumbai. There's a huge slum there called Dharavi. Turns out it's a very productive, low-income place. It's the kind of place they do a lot of leather work and all the rest of it. It's the sort of stuff that ends up in the major stores in New York City. A lot of it comes from there. But the land is right next to the new financial center and is now valued at around $2 billion. So you've got this whole question of how can we get these people out of Dharavi? Well, one of the things is to take the tanning industry, which is very insalubrious and has been there for 30 years in its insalubrious state, and suddenly get an environmental conscience and say, it's all simply a matter of cleaning up and being ecologically sensitive. So we need to go in there and close all those tanning works down in exactly the same way that Haussmann did in Paris. And there we have a revitalization